So that leads us to our next topic when we talk about the evolution of the GOAT conversation. It's very prevalent right now because of where LeBron James is and trying to solidify his resume, win a fourth championship. Is he the GOAT over Michael Jordan? Can he ever catch Michael Jordan? In your time and all the stories that you've written, can you peg when the GOAT conversation really came into existence? Because I can remember when I grew up, Michael Jordan was everything to me, and my father would beat me over the head with Elgin Baylor all the time. It's like, man, Elgin Baylor used to put up those type of stats all the time. You need to read about Elgin Baylor. So it seemed to be regional, or it seemed to be preferential, but now it seems to be more solidified. I guess universal. Was Michael Jordan the first universal recognized GOAT when it comes to the NBA?
Nah, being the OG in the conversation, it didn't transition like that. I was surprised your father like just skipped over Julius Erving. He went so I passed Dr. J because it was Elgin Baylor, then it was Julius Erving, and then from there it was the Magic and Bird conversation. And I think what's happened is that leading up to Michael Jordan, there was always transition. The conversation started, but it was a conversation. And then it was given time for everybody to prove them wrong. Elgin Baylor held it down for a long time. Doc came in, did his thing in the ABA, and that was amazing. But like, let's see what he does in the NBA. And after a period of time, those Elgin Baylor cats, same way with Wilt Chamberlain. It was Wilt Chamberlain forever, and it was hard for the older cats. I was young at the time, but it was hard for those older cats to give Kareem Abdul-Jabbar that torch when he was Lou Alcindor. It was really tough. But after like 5 or 6 years, everybody bows down. Same thing with hello, y'all still there?
Yeah, we're here.
All right. Same thing with what you call it with like I said with Elgin Baylor. It was just Doc came in, and once he got to the NBA, everybody started bowing down after that. And from there, this is where it got difficult. Is Magic and Bird came in together, and they got a good head start because they brought their college experience into the game. And, it's like, all right, well, now it's two. And it was not just about what they did on the court. It was what they were able to do and Doc wasn't able to do. They kind of both went through Doc to get to where they were. Bird in the Eastern Conference getting him, and Magic, came in the league taking, chips away from Doc. So they did that. And when Michael came in, it wasn't just a Doc conversation. It was a Doc / Larry Bird / Magic Johnson. And it took time for Michael to get in there from our standpoint, not from your standpoint because you're young, because Michael meant everything to you. But from our standpoint, it was like he still has to surpass Magic and Larry to get that crown. And once he did that, it was all good. What seems to happen now is that the conversation starts without really doing anything to see if that person passed that individual. And I hate to say it, but a lot of that is on us. And when I say us, I mean ESPN. The difference that everybody else had, that LeBron has, that nobody else had, is the power of ESPN.
Yeah.
ESPN generated a 24/7 nonstop platform for that conversation to exist. And that's forced the nature of how it's actually gone down in the past, where there's been those periods where you had the conversation and the other person who was coming up new had a chance to prove to those who were against it that, okay, he earned the right. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar earned the right. Julius Erving earned the right. Michael Jordan earned the right. We started to have this conversation where LeBron he hasn't necessarily earned the right to surpass Michael Jordan, but he hasn't had to surpass Michael Jordan to get into the conversation. The conversation started as equal, and ESPN as a network has fueled a conversation that they weren't in position to fuel before.
I agree with that. And I think, to kind of take that one step further, I think the GOAT conversation for me now, these days, is about who someone's favorite player is, not necessarily, what they have done, in their careers or anything like that. It's just like, okay, this is my favorite player, and that's why he's the GOAT.
Yeah.
And like Scoop said, a lot of that is fueled by ESPN. And then the other side of that is a lot of people who are, making these GOAT claims don't really know history. You got people who think the reason Michael Jordan was as good as he was because the talent that he played in was inferior compared to, what guys are today. And that's just not the case. You know what I'm saying? And so, there's a lot of recency bias that goes on in that conversation. And it's a lot of closed ears too, whereas, guys in this generation, like, putting myself in school situation, like now I'm that OG because I've seen Michael Jordan, you know what I'm saying? I saw Magic and I saw, Kareem and Bird, even though it might have been the tail end, but I saw all of that stuff. And so I have a perspective that a lot of these young guys don't, because of the simple fact I have witnessed these errors. And so, I can sit up here and say, yeah, I saw that the competition, there was no fall off. I can say that, but, a lot of these young cats, they don't want to hear it, just because it's been drilled into them so much.
Let me ask you a question, B. Why does this generation, and I'm not trying to get like generational, but I need somebody to explain to me why it is so important to have to see something to validate it.
Well, I mean, it's like,
because look, ain't none of us seen Jesus.
I mean, that's true.
Believing in higher powers and stuff like that. Ain't none of it. All these kids ain't never seen Martin Luther King, but they understand the movement. So I don't understand why when it comes to basketball, and this GOAT conversation, well, if I didn't see it, it didn't exist.
Right.
Right. And that's how, we have not seen. You haven't seen, but you fall for that.
Well, I mean, but for me, growing up in the game, like I was kind of like a history buff on it. You know what I'm saying? Like I wanted to go back and see. I wanted to see who all the
others, not you. I'm talking about explaining to me why others use that as their crutch. Like I didn't see it, so I can't.
Oh, it didn't happen. Like
I think everybody wants to be able to say, I saw the best basketball player there was. I think this whole LeBron versus MJ, I still don't put LeBron over Kobe, or even Magic to that standpoint. And this all depends on what you're looking at. I mean, are you looking at overall stats? Are you looking at titles? Are you looking at finals appearance? It's whatever. But I think at the end of the day, everybody wants that claim that I saw the best basketball player there is. And then there's a lot of people that fall into that crowd. They just take a side. They're not even really purely basketball fans. And a lot of these people now, they're not watching each game. They're watching national games and they're watching postseason games. And all of it is still narrative driven now because like you said, you got the 24/7 sports news cycle on. You got all of these talk shows, all these debate shows. So everything is constantly getting pumped into this new generation and they buy into it. So I just think at the end of the day, everybody wants to be able to say, I saw the best basketball player there is.
You know what? I'm going to go ahead and ask a question.
I was going to say this. Jeff Van Gundy said something. Maybe it was like game one, something like that. Or maybe I overheard a game two. But he was talking about, LeBron and the Michael Jordan conversation. And Jeff Van Gundy was like, at the end of the day, LeBron James might walk away as the player who had the best career out of everybody who was in this GOAT conversation. But that doesn't necessarily make him the best player.
Best player, yeah.
And when I heard that, I was like, you know what? That really kind of put me at peace with the whole thing because they kind of like broke it down. Like, you know what? I understand that. I can actually concede that. I can actually say, you know what? LeBron James played damn near 20 years in the league, put up numbers in this particular modern era that we haven't seen, obviously ever. You know what I'm saying? And he's racked up all these accolades. I'm okay with saying he's had the best career than, maybe a Michael Jordan who accomplished a lot in 13 years, but he didn't play as long as LeBron. He didn't have, he had a couple years of college before, whereas LeBron came into high school, so he got off to an earlier start. So I'm okay with Bron saying, or somebody saying that Bron had a better career, but in terms of actual better player, and what that means, there's no way that LeBron could be better than Michael Jordan.
I'm sorry, Sean. I said? I've always left it at this, man, and usually this ends the conversation. If LeBron and Mike in a room together, that's when the GOAT conversation is going to be decided. And if you really believe that LeBron James can prove to Michael Jordan, them two in the room just alone, if you believe LeBron James can walk out of that room convincing Mike that he's better than him, then that's the winner. But we all know
it's not gonna happen.
That's not gonna happen.
It's not gonna happen.
And that's it. It's because it's a conversation between two people. And if those two people who are the subjects of this conversation have a conversation, that's it. Our point means nothing. It's between them two, but we all know who's gonna come out on top of that conversation.
I mean, you know what? And it's bigger than basketball. You know, I mean, listen, man, Michael Jordan literally is basketball. Like, literally is the game. Like, when you think about basketball, Michael Jordan is going to be the first person that you think of, you know, because he took it from, you know, what it was. And, you know, obviously Magic and Larry, you know, they saved the league, they saved the NBA. But Michael Jordan blew basketball up and turned it into this big global thing. You know what I'm saying? And LeBron just kind of, you know, if you want to say, he kind of rode the coattails of that because he had the internet, you know what I'm saying? And once LeBron is like the first internet superstar that we've seen in basketball. And so that's really a large part of the reason why a lot of these young guys think he's the GOAT, because they grew up with the internet and he was the first person that they saw. So it doesn't really, you know, it doesn't matter if he's been in 10 finals and, you know, lost 6 of them. It doesn't matter to, you know, to them, because they don't really understand that whole winning type of attitude, because in the internet everything moves quick like this. You know what I'm saying? They don't understand the grind.
Understand once again that if Mike and LeBron are in a room together, locked doors, they know Mike's gonna come out. Like, yeah.
I mean, LeBron knows better, and that's the other part of LeBron. He knows better, man, but he buys into a lot of this stuff too.
I know, but that's the point. It's like we can talk about it all. All of us can talk about it. The whole damn world can talk about it. But the two people who are at the center of this, if they talk about it, just them.
He couldn't have had that conversation with Kobe. Like Chris said, like he hadn't even passed Kobe.
Right. And Mike and Kobe would be the exact same thing. He come out and do the hell.
You know, so
and it's not about like Mike litigating better than they do. It's just the facts.
Right.
The basketball, Michael would lay down hard basketball facts that those cats would be, I ain't gonna say they'd be scared, but they would have no comeback for. And because of who they're talking to.
Exactly.
They may say some shit to us, but when you sitting there in front of Mike and you trying to prove to Michael Jordan you greater than him, good luck.
Yeah, exactly. Good luck with that.
Yeah. If you can't do that, then you can't be claimed to GOAT. You cannot be claimed to GOAT. You know what I'm saying? Look, Roger Federer or Rafael Nadal can walk up to, you know, Rod Laver or Bjorn Borg and straight up be like, look, man, I was the greatest tennis player. And they're like, hey, we can't argue with that. Right. You know what I'm saying? We cannot argue with that. There are certain players that are doing certain things. It doesn't make a difference. There are so many players doing so many things that you can't walk into the room and have a two-person conversation. And if you come out the winner, then you're the actual GOAT.
Yep.
You are the actual GOAT. Now, like here, I got one. Let's say, I'll throw it up there because it's equal, but people could argue. Who could go in the room with Tom Brady? Who could go in the room with Tom Brady? Tom Brady and Jim Brown. Okay? Who's going to come out that argument the winner? If they want to claim they're the GOAT in football, who's going to come out?
Shit, they better hope it ain't no balcony. Jim Brown to throw Tom Brady off the balcony.
Right, exactly. All right, so that's my point. It's like, let's get two people in the room and let them decide it. Our conversation about this is a lot of time based on opinion. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And like he said, it's based on preference of who we favor. My thing is get down to the root of this and talk about the two individuals, what would happen if they had a conversation. How would that come out? And to me, if you believe, or if anybody believes that if LeBron James and Michael Jordan were in a room and had a conversation about who was the greatest of all time, and they feel LeBron James would win that conversation, then I'm not going to argue with you. That if you can stand on that, then that's what you stand on in your mind. That's it.
Your mind.
The conversation ends. And that has nothing to do with preference or who you favor. It's just a matter of what you think is going to happen. when those two come out that room for a conversation. And it's not about them playing against each other, because all we're doing is having conversations about a GOAT. That's all it is a conversation.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So put the conversation to the two people at the center of it. And whoever comes out the room, that's it. Because guess what? To be honest with you, if we're having this national or global conversation about who the GOAT is, and LeBron and Michael do have that conversation, and Michael Jordan comes out and says, you know what? LeBron convinced me he was greater than me. What can we say? You know what I'm saying? It's over. If Michael Jordan says LeBron convinced me that he was greater than me, we like, hey, we can disagree, but we can't have an argument because the man already said it.
Yeah.
Conversation. That's the way we need to go with all of these GOAT conversations. You know,
I might tell Mike to put the yak down. He had a little too much to drink.
Look, man, you know how Mike goes. Mike is so, that's why I put it, Mike is so particular about holding on to his stature that I love the fact when he was talking about the dunk contest and jumping from the free throw line, he said, you know what made mine greater than Dr. J jumping from the free throw line?
Dribble the ball.
Yes.
Dribble the ball, yeah.
Right. Like, nobody's calling traveling in the dunk contest, but Mike is so hard on sticking true to what makes him great. He broke it down to the dribble. So I'm like, if you break it down to a dribble in a conversation about the greatest dunk, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
What the hell are you going to do when LeBron James talk about a whole career in front of your face? Man, he going to eat him alive.
Right.
He will eat him alive. Mike is petty like that, but it's a beautiful petty. It's a beautiful petty because it's a petty you can't come back at.
There you go.
And when you're trying to win an argument, and all of y'all got women in your lives, when it comes to petty, you trying to win an argument, dude.
It ain't happening.
Yeah,
That ain't happening.
Nah, you ain't gonna never win an argument with that petty person.
That petty wins all the time.
All the time.